Saturday.
Thursday night football is up. It's Brock Purdy and the 49ers versus Geno Smith and the Seahawks. Stream Thursday night football. Only on Prime.
Jameson, famously smooth whiskey from a famously big Jameson.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary obligated to act in your best interests.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a transparent fee structured so we do better when you do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Every game matters.
Wrap up the day's action with highlights and reactions from players and coaches around the league.
Yes, everybody locked in with Game Pass.
NFL Game Day Final tonight at 11:30 on NFL Network.
It's time to go bigger this season, presented by Best Buy. Pretty big play here, Kurt. Huge play, and it just looked like Ty Chandler didn't get his hands up to be able to snag that out of the air. And if Minnesota has had one issue so far this season, it's turning the ball over. They came in with 7 turnovers. Only one of 3 teams in the last decade that have started 4-0 with 7 or more turnovers. So that has been an issue, and that was one that could have easily been avoided right there. Their 5th lost fumble of the season. That is tops in the NFL here, and that is exactly what the Jets needed. As we're back here, there's some chitter-chatter between Rodgers and some Vikings with the officials in between. 3:14 to go, and the Jets' first snap of the game from Vikings territory. Nothing more frustrating than just one of those routine things, a handoff, a quick little pitch that turns into a turnover. Braylon Allen, the rookie from Wisconsin, in the game for the first time. Rothschild's going to throw it. And it's Wilson. He is immediately taken down by Byron Murphy. As Wilson is the only receiver that Rodgers is not only connected with, but is targeted so far in this first quarter. We've talked about some of the issues that they have had with the continuity and the consistency of route running, but one thing that they do really well is that little choice route. Putting Garrett Wilson in the slot, as we just saw there, allowing him the opportunity to read the defense, and then Aaron to get the ball out of his hands quickly. 2nd and 6. Rodgers throwing again. To his right. Lazard had it, but couldn't corral it. As Murphy in on that 1-2. 36. And this is the guy that he's very, very comfortable with. Alan Lazard's had a great start to the season. Wins on that little double move comeback. Perfect ball right there. Just got to be able to make that catch. But that's been one of the things that we've seen with this offense, is it just everybody taking their turn with a little mistake here, a little mistake there. It's been what's stopping them. Jets still looking for their first down of the game. Quick throw. Intercepted. Van Ginkel.
Happens.
Sideline. Touchdown. Another pick six for Andrew Van Ginkel. And the Vikings take a 2-score lead. This is the challenge of the walk-up defense from the Minnesota Vikings. They bring everybody up to the line of scrimmage, and you have no idea who's coming and who's dropping. So one of the answers is the quick throw, what we call the hot throw. Aaron's trying to do that right here, and Van Ginkel just pops out from that walked-up position. He's standing right there. It's hard to see as a quarterback, and then somebody's just got to get him down on the sideline. I know all about that. 63-yard pick six for Mr. Pick Six. 4 career interceptions for Andrew Van Ginkel now. 3 of them taken to the house, including 2 this year. So the Jets take one away, but give one back. And they're down by 10.
Bookstores. I read that one. I read that one. I read that. I didn't read that one. Didn't read that one. Can you get this? Because I left my wallet way in my back pocket. My pleasure, because I earned unlimited 2% cash back. Well, this is fascinating. Did you know whales and barnacles have a parasitic relationship? Oh, I love parasitic relationships. Let's go, barnacle. Off you go.
Unlimited 2% cash back. The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card.
Meteorologists described the blizzard as a doozy, but to these intrepid few pals, it was a ticket to Jumbotron City. Didn't cost much, just the shirts off their backs. The legend starts when you follow the captain. Highlights, and yeah, more highlights. Unbelievable! We've got you covered with every big play from Sunday's slate of games. Touchdown! NFL Game Day highlights tonight at 7:30 on NFL Network.
Do you love fantasy football? Let the knowledge reign. Our experts will help take your squad to the next level.
I love the upside here.
He's a big, strong guy. He's the guy I want. That's what I'm talking about. NFL Fantasy Live, Monday at 6 on NFL Network. I mean, I guess, should we call him Dr. Van Ginkel with all the house calls, Kurt? Well, it's so good. It's not easy in that tight position to be able to track and catch the football. And all these interceptions, you see it. Ball coming out quick, able to react to it. And then this last one, Aaron trying to get it out quick. You see it on the outside shoulder able to snag it, and then a great job being able to tiptoe the sideline and get into the end zone.
Well, he's now picked sixth both New York quarterbacks, or I'm sorry, I mean offend Phil's fans, both quarterbacks who play in New Jersey. Now one here in London. 10-0 Minnesota. It's their third straight game with at least 10 points in the first quarter. They're now winning that quarter 38-0 in that span.
Wow.
And that's how you don't trail a game over 4+ games by more than 3 minutes and 26 seconds.
No doubt. And you've got players on both sides making plays. That's the other side of it, is that we talked about Minnesota having some turnovers, as they did right here, giving it to the New York Jets. But this defense has been as good as anybody in the league at taking the
wiped out.
back,
I am
and that's what they did. Hey, we make a
fed
mistake
up.
on
I
offense.
am
Don't worry about it.
exhausted.
We got you
I
on
am
defense. They
disillusioned.
got him in a big way right there.
And
Just when the Jets thought they had set up.
and I'm lonely because since Misty was killed 5 years ago, I sometimes feel like I'm literally dying of loneliness. And the fact that other people around me have been hurt, one quite seriously, makes me a little nervous too. And that's where I am at this point. And it's a terrible place to be. Terrible. Now, it took $7 million to build what we built, but it's been really tough. Okay, we're talking about like raising $1 at a time. It's been really, really difficult. And for us to set this up so that it's actually permanent and self-sustaining, and so we have port admissible data in all 50 states, which will make these companies think. It will make them think twice, maybe. That is going to require at least another $50 million. That gets us a facility and
Welcome.
servers and a security team. We have virtually no security. Hear that, Google? And they know this because a couple months ago they attacked us in an extremely sophisticated way. I've never seen this before.
You say giant who?
I don't know.
Someone.
I don't know. Google has.
What did they do?
It was very, very unusual. It was not unusual. What they did was they got our accounts. They got our app to run kind of at ludicrous speed, I guess you could say. And what they did was they pulled in more and more servers. So we were running so many servers simultaneously that we actually got shut down in the cloud. And we lost access to our own data for almost 2 weeks. Now, we've never seen an attack like that, even though our security people have never seen an attack like that. It was really.
What was the mechanism of this attack? How did they do it?
We're not sure how they got in. Once they got in, all they did was they just created a tremendous amount of activity. So that pulled in more and more resources.
And this is definitely created. This is not organic.
Oh no, that's absolutely created. But and now that we know about this particular kind of attack, if it happens again, we'll be up there in 2 days. Now. But the point is, there's a lot of pressure on us. So we need a lot of money to set up a secure facility, have security teams, not just protecting our data, protecting our people. We have to protect our people.
Have you ever talked to anyone about this thing?
I've never had a way to reach them.
Well, hopefully someone will take this clip and put it on X. And the junkie will be on it all day. So hopefully someone will put it through his attention and put it up there. Because I'm sure this is very concerning to him. And he has a vested interest in this. Clearly, what happened when he first purchased Twitter and he found out the extent of government interference and free speech, and commented people will be pressured to not talk about certain things how many accounts they were trying to get taken down because these accounts were purveyors of misinformation that turned out to be absolutely accurate. He has a deep distrust
Well, he has a few times lately. He has retweeted content about my work, so I think he might be aware. And there's another way, also, by the way, to take down Google, which I published this in Bloomberg Business Week. If you go to Epstein and businessweek.com, you'll actually see the article. And we've reached the point where data has become an essential part of our lives. And the way to take down Google is to do what governments have been doing for hundreds of years: declare their index, the database they use to generate search results, to be a public comment. This is exactly what governments do when water, electricity, telephone communications, any commodity, any service becomes essential. Governments at some point have to step in. The electric companies, they were all privately owned. I didn't know that, didn't realize that. They were all privately owned until the government had to step in. And this is where we are now with data. And the biggest, baddest database in the world is Google, because it's the gateway to all knowledge. It needs to be declared a public commons. As I say, ample precedent for that in law, very light touch regulation. And what it will do is it will allow other people to draw from the database to create their own niche search engine. So, you'll create a search engine for people interested in DMT and UFOs. Someone will create one for women, for Lithuanians, we'll end up with thousands of these search engines, all of which are vying for attention. It will be exactly like the news. Exactly like the news. The news media, that kind of thing. And that's the way it should be. Search should be competitive. Google was not the first search engine, it was the 21st. So that's how you do it. And also, then search would become innovative again. There have been no innovations in search for the 20 years that Google has dominated search. So, General Paxton, Ken Paxton of the great state of Texas, he's interested in this. Senator Cruz is interested. Other people are interested. This would be tough to implement in the U.S., but the EU could do it. Because 5 of Google's data centers are in the EU. The EU could do it in a flash. And they're very frustrated with Google because they've been trying to keep them under control for a long time now. They failed. So there are some things that could be done. Permanent, large-scale monitoring system, that is that must be there, because if you don't have that, you don't know what these companies are doing. We don't know how they're messing with our minds, with our kids' minds, and with our elections. You have to monitor, and you have to have coordinate data in every state and probably in every country. And then they will pull back a little bit because they have to. They're violating campaign finance laws when they very blatantly support one candidate or one party. They're making huge in-kind donations without declaring them. So another thing.
Grow up gang signs are going out of style. And then freestyle. Bitch. Call everybody bitch. Why? Because they bitches.
To Democrats at about 2.5 times the rate they're sending them to Republicans. How do I know? Because that's what the modern system shows. That's what they're doing. At some point, that's going to turn into partisan mail-in your ballot reminders. And then that turns into partisan go vote reminders. These are just displayed on Google's homepage. We're capturing the homepage by the millions. If you don't capture them, then the content is ephemeral and it disappears and it's gone forever and you can't go back to figure out what they're doing. So monitoring is no longer optional. And by the way, monitoring is fast. Unlike regulations and laws, monitoring can keep up with whatever the tech company is dishing out. The next company, the next Google after that, monitoring can keep up. You're going to have an internet, and it can mess with people's lives, and it can mess with governments and elections and so on. And you've got to have monitoring. But that's what this new my monograph is about. And if people want to get a free copy of it,
TameBigTech.com. TameBigTech.com.
Behind the sticks.
Um,
Just heard Kevin O'Connell talking about one side picking up
you crack
for
me up
the other
sometimes,
side.
really.
Couple turnovers
And
by
I'd
the
love to see
offense.
you accommodate
The defense to
the
pick
thing.
it up, and you see Oliver
Listen,
coming off the
Robert,
edge there.
thank you for being here.
Untouched
I
for the sack.
really appreciate what you're doing. If you weren't doing this, I don't know if it would get done. I don't know if you would know as much as you know. I think it would be speculative. I think people would have ideas. I think it would be impossible to prove. And I think what you've done is a tremendous service. So thank you very much.
Thank you, but I'm still fed up, just so you know.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Yep. Bye, everybody.
Pro Sauce Gardner. A huge penalty on 3rd and long. You heard illegal contact, 5 yards down the field, can't touch him, even though it looked like a lead. Miscommunication on where that ball was being thrown.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Hard to play defense in this league.
What's up? Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Of course, yeah, of course I'm here, right? Of course I'm gonna do this.
Glad you're doing it.
Yeah.
So, you wrote a book about, well, I think the title is I Used to Like You, But.
Until. Yeah, I used to like you until. Yeah.
Why did you want to do that? What was the motivation behind that?
Inside the 40, gain of 4. It's really been a story here early in this game. Is just mistake after mistake. Drop passes, missed throws, penalty on a big 3rd down. Keep stacking up here for the Jets.
Good job. Rogan. Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Come on, Sam Darnold, quit sucking cock. I bet you went, piece of shit.
Oh, good to see you, man.
Probably went to Oklahoma or some bullshit.
The strangers and getting strange.
Didn't some shit go down today? Didn't we steal the president of Venezuela's plane? Yeah, I think we just stole his plane.
I did. No, not us. Okay, good.
The United States.
Oh, yeah, it's
So
just
kind
sounds
of stole your plane.
piece of.
Which is
kind of an active war. What is that?
Was he in it?
I don't think so. No. When we just stole his plane.
Carl, just like for a joyride?
What's the story? U.S. seizes Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro's airplane in the Dominican Republic. So we said, no, we're stealing that.
32.
How does that work?
Fake it, throw it deep.
Even if you don't
Jordan
get along
Jefferson.
with like president of the country, how disrespectful is it to steal their plane? You're right, it's an act of war. Like, imagine Xi Jinping landed somewhere. We're like, we're gonna steal your fucking plane. Yeah, no chance. That's a bully move. That's a move you can only do to a country like Venezuela.
Well, no, we're
Yeah,
not
so
pirates.
I can't remember exactly what the story was, but there was a point where Ecuador was acting very courageously with respect to Julian Assange, and there was a question about whether the president of Ecuador could fly Assange out to the outside of the embassy and inside of Ecuador proper. And I believe the reason was they couldn't do it because they expected the plane to be forced down. Same issue. So this says Merrick Garland said that the Justice Department seized an aircraft he alleged was illegally purchased for $13 million through a shell company and smuggled out of the United States for use by Nicolas Maduro and his cronies. What business is that about? Though? This is what I don't understand. Like, if it was purchased through a shell company, then it was purchased.
Right, and was there a trial that established that this was ill-gotten gain?
It says smuggled out of the United States. The plane was purchased from a company in Florida. The Justice Department said it was illegally exported in April 2023 from the United States to Venezuela through the Caribbean. So are we not allowed to sell them planes? Is that what it is? Like, because we have a problem with them? Would they say how much it cost? $13 million?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got this $13 million plane. Dassault Falcon 900X.
Hey, where do you think of Diddy parties, Rabbi? Everybody was going to Diddy parties back in the day, dog.
Justice Department said CNN reached out to Venezuelan government. It seems like, though, there's more to it than that plane was illegal. You shouldn't have that plane. For years, officials have sought to.
But then you met Rabbi Rothschild, and his life changed, kids.
Homeland Security investigations The second largest investigative agency in the federal government has seized dozens of luxury vehicles, among other assets, headed to Venezuela. So there's a U.S. sanction. So there's a sanction. The plane was seized in violation of U.S. sanctions in Venezuela and other criminal matters that we're looking at regarding this aircraft. They didn't find a reason to keep it. Like they stole all those boats from all those Russian cats.
Yeah,
Sorry, get you rich and you know Putin. Right, give me your vote.
well, that's the thing. Is there's a hidden story for everything, and this is about incentivizing the world, and we in the public don't get to know the real story.
Don't you think now, though, most people, I feel like genuinely most people are aware there's more of the story. Every story. Every time something comes up.
But get that kicker in the fucking game and have him kick lots and lots of field goals.
Well, I coined this term, the Cartesian crisis. And the Cartesian crisis basically means the point at which you can't really be certain of anything. And the problem is, yes, I do think people are catching on to the fact that they never know the real story. But the response to that is either that you start believing the bullshit that they tell you, or that you just become cynical and stop believing anything. And neither of those are functional ways to exist.
And both those ways are good for the people that are running scams.
Exactly. They're good for the people who want to maintain power.
Yeah, because if you don't know what's true and what's not true, like, oh, gee, and then you get cynical, oh, it's all bullshit, this whole system's rigged, and you just go fishing.
Right, and that's the thing people don't understand. Just at the point that you think you're striking a blow by checking out of their system, you're actually doing them a favor.
Right, it's actually beneficial to them because then you have a smaller number of people that are voting. So essentially, in the 2020 elections, it was the largest ever win, right? The Democrats got 80-something million votes, which is, so let's say it was 50-50. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 million people. How many people are women and children? I mean, how many people are children? How many people are children now?
Oh, geez, I have no idea.
Under 18. It's probably in the 30%. So that's a pretty high turnout.
Yes, if it was real.
Yeah, right. Darren, that's the problem with the whole cynical game. Because I'm not convinced. You know why I'm not convinced? Because everybody wants me to be convinced. When they yell at you, if you ask a question, like, hey, one of the things that I've always said, and everyone sort of agrees with this, literally everyone, even people who think that the election is 100% the percentage of voter fraud is never zero, correct? No one can say it's zero. It's not zero. There's a bunch of slippery people that get arrested on both sides of the aisle. Republicans and Democrats get arrested for election fraud. It's a real crime. The idea that they commit all of these other acts of fraud and deception, but when it comes to elections, Brett, that's a sacred institution that we don't violate at any time.
Yeah, well, and the way they maintain that story is by ruthlessly punishing anybody who questions it. So no question is the obvious thing. Right. Because for one thing, elections used to be different. It's, remember, right? First of all, you used to vote in person. And voting by mail was something you were very reluctant to do because you knew that if your vote got counted, it was going to be very late in the process. It wasn't really going to matter.
It was mostly for soldiers serving overseas.
Right, exactly. For people who just simply couldn't vote in person, it never really mattered except in very rare cases. The disappearance of that and the normalization of voting by mail, the normalization of voting across a period of time so that you're not all voting on the same day, and the absence of exit polling. Right, everybody's voting from home or wherever. You can't detect fraud by virtue of the fact that the count that came in from that precinct didn't match what the exit pollers registered.
Right.
And so, I don't think we are wrong to imagine that we have lost the ability to check whether an election is fair, and that's not an action. That leaves the possibility open to, and as you point out, in every other way. Are we supposed to believe that they won't do that because their patriotism is so deep? I don't see any patriotism to them at all.
Well, not only that, they've established this narrative that it's imperative that the Democrats win to save democracy, right? So they've already made all of these statements that it's more important for them to win than anything. More important than anything. More important than having primaries. More important than letting people decide who the representative is. more important than having like live actual conversations, interviews that aren't edited of CNN. Instead, they have a 40-plus minute one that's edited down to 18 minutes. What?
Well, and we just went through this with them over COVID.
Yeah.
We know that when they think they're in the right, they feel entitled to lie about everything. They feel entitled to coerce. Right. So the idea that we're supposed to imagine that our elections are somehow different to them, I can't imagine how that would even work.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's one of those things, again, that you're forced into agreeing with just out of fear. Because people get very aggressive with it. Just like people were super aggressive about the vaccine. You know, I hate seeing people die because they made a poor choice. But there's something insane about how many people were like pro-vaccine advocates that were shaming people and angry people. And now they're dead. And they're not dead because they ran their time and they got old and they died. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but it happens to all of them. No, they're dead young. Like a lot of people. Not one, not 20. They don't even know what the real numbers are because it's not something the mainstream media covers. Because they've all been vaccinated too. They're probably freaking the fuck out too.
Yeah, it's a huge number of people. You can detect that statistically. The trouble is that it's hard in any individual case to know whether or not you're looking at something that would have happened anyway.
Right.
So, you know John Ritter?
Yes.
From Three's Company?
Sure.
Died of
I worked with him.
Ruptured. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did an episode of News Radio with him. Super nice guy.
Good guy? Yeah, I
Great
got that impression. Anyway, he died of a ruptured aorta, if I remember correctly, long before there was COVID vaccine.
Right.
So the point is, if that had happened last year,
right,
we'd all be saying, come on. Of course. In Hollywood, we got vaxxed, and now look at it.
Yep.
So it happened.
100%.
Right? But the rate at which it's happening has changed radically.
Exactly.
And the very people who say, oh, that's not the vaccine, are very uninterested in figuring out what it is. So, you know, let's put two and two together.
Well, they don't even want to consider the vaccine, which is so crazy. If you called it anything else, if it wasn't called the vaccine, if it wasn't for COVID, okay, because COVID became it became so politicized, and it was like culturally so polarizing. Let's pretend it was for something else. There was some medication, and the people that were taking that medication were dropping like flies. They would 100% make a correlation, and they would make it publicly and be in the news. Of course, it might not actually be in the news today because this is part of the problem we're dealing with advertising and the media, is that there's so much revenue that comes from pharmaceutical drug companies that there's just a reality about them reluctant to print or put any stories on television that are negative. There's too much money involved.
Right, there's too much money involved, and it becomes impossible to override this narrative. The narrative takes on a reality of its own, even though it is contradicted by the facts. Our scientific tools they're tremendously powerful at discovering patterns. It's not difficult to do, and yet we deliberately avoid using them in the ways that they were intended.
Do you think in the future we'll look back on this and there'll be some sort of shift in the way we discuss it? You know, there's a lot of things in history that during the time that they were happening, I'm sure people were all like the McCarthy era. You know, I'm sure people thought it was very important to root out these communists. They didn't exactly understand. Like, hey, you're calling a lot of people communists. I was communists. Why have people just went to meetings to find out what's going on? The world didn't exactly understand what that meant back then. You know, we look back at it now, the Red Scare is like a negative thing. It's a dangerous sort of negative aspect of our history.
Yeah, although, you know, I'm sure you're having the same experience. There's lots of stuff that you learn as a clear narrative, like, you know, the Red Scare took over people and it was like a witch hunt. And the answer is actually nuanced. There's more truth to it than I was taught. Right? The Rosenbergs really were guilty of passing secrets to Russia.
Oh yeah, there definitely was a lot of that.
So, you know, it's a mixed story.
Right.
You asked the question, though, if in the future we're going to have a different conversation about what's taking place, and I just want to put a little placeholder there. The answer kind of depends if there is a future.
other as they bring Justin Jefferson
I worry
around
a lot
the edge.
that
Great
not
play call.
only are we
Great
headed
job by Naylor
into
on the
chaos,
outside to set up the
but
rub
that
and
we
wide
are
open Justin Jefferson.
going to be denied the ability to have a proper historical account of the present, but we're never going to understand what these stories were doing, why they played out the way they did, why people disappeared when they did. But that's not healthy. You need to be able to create a record. It's never going to be perfect, but you need to be able to create a record of what took place that has been exposed to some kind of analytical standard so that you can correct your course. If you don't know what happened, you can't improve on your thought process going forward. And that's extremely dangerous. It's like, flying with a blindfold.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I'm glad you did point out the fact that there were really things. The Red Scare is a weird example because people would like to kind of dismiss the impact that communists, especially Russia, was having on our government. And it was a pretty big impact when they did steal the plans for the nuclear bomb. There's a lot of shit that happened because of actual communist interference. But the narrative when I was in high school was that the Red Scare was bad. Right? It was like everybody went crazy. They were all looking for him, which was true too. But that's part of the problem when you don't know. Like back then, no internet, very little paper trail. Really hard to find out who's talking to who unless you get an actual listening device in the room and capture them talking.
Yeah, we can't know, and it's important to get your comeuppance on these stories. You grow up comfortable that you understand what happened during the Red Scare, but then one day you want to go reading and you discover the story just as the one you were taught, and the more stories you dig into, the more frequently that happens.
Well, if you just get one good one, you're hooked. For me, it was Kennedy assassination. One good book on the Kennedy assassination, I was like, God damn it, they killed the fucking president. It freaked me out forever. That was like, I literally had a giant shift in how I viewed the world after reading that book. Because before that, I was never a questioner of whatever was in the news or whatever the narrative was that was being told about anything. Well, but,
I have exactly the same reaction. I've been down that rabbit hole. And I think you're just ultimately left with something happened in 1960. That's before I was that thing was either an anomaly that robbed the nation of the president, and the nation continued to be a Democratic Republican aftermath, or that was interference with democracy, and we don't know how to look at all of the seemingly democratic things that have happened since. How much of what has happened since are the people who took control with that assassination? How much is them continuing to maintain control with a certain amount of democracy? And how much was that an aberration that returned us to our normal course? And
that's a good point. A certain amount of democracy.
A certain amount. There's clearly a certain amount.
Yeah. Well, which is one of the reasons why they're so terrified of Trump. Okay, there's a certain amount of stealing they can do. Let's imagine if it is dirt and you really can manipulate elections. How much can you manipulate them? Can you manipulate it by 30%? We don't know. And as long as they can have people believing in the polls, this was really important. Polls. Kamala Harris is up by 3%. Oh, she's up. She's winning. Like, who the fuck are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
Right. And what narrative is it in which Kamala has done something that might have caused a surge in her popularity? I didn't see it.
Well, imagine. It's like, there's that theory, that concept about multiple dimensions. Multiple universes that we all live in. Yeah, this possibility that there's infinite numbers of universes all around us all the time, and we enter into a different timeline. We entered into a different timeline. Well, clearly, something happened.
I think the multiverse thing is nonsense. I think it's an accounting scheme for figuring out how to deal with the fact that actually the universe is not deterministic. People wrestle with it. We don't exactly know why it isn't. But to your point about how much can they see, I call that factor, which none of us can put a number on. Maybe they can.
Right.
I call it the truth factor. right? It's heat marches. And one of the things that I'm trying to convince people of is that it's not hopeless because they compete, but it means that you have to succeed at a level that exceeds their capacity to erase it.
Right, so that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about like maybe they could cheat by 10%.
Right, and what we know, and I think actually we owe Trump a huge debt of gratitude for proving something that I couldn't have told you if it was true before he won the presidency, which is there still enough democracy left in the system for something to upend the plan? Right? So he was clearly off narrative. Right. And he did become president. So, he did something for it, but I don't know anybody else who could have done it.
Yeah, it would take a person with that kind of personality that could withstand that kind of abuse. Because he didn't freak out at all when they went after him. Like,
right.
Just brushed it off like it was nothing. And no one's done that. He's also the only guy that's ever gone through 4 years and didn't age like he went through 30 years.
That's true.
He aged normal.
Yeah.
He's used to it. He's used to pressure. And Bush, he aged a ton. Obama aged a ton. Everybody aged a ton. Biden was already cooked before he got in, but he's hard. But he aged a ton. I mean, Biden from 2019 to today is a different person.
Yeah, and he was already visibly degraded, but wow, was it a
big jump now.
Yeah.
Trump was fine.
Yeah, Trump physically, and actually, I think he sounds better. I think, you guys can say this sometimes when he talks, but I think he's getting better at it.
I think he's trying to be a little bit more reasonable, and try to feel sorry for people because of that, that effort to be more reasonable. Like he's changed his mind about a lot of things. He's talking about legalizing